Right, a very warm welcome. If you've just joined us, we are here at the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC and today very kindly sponsored by Transnet. And today, sharply in focus is the Department of Higher Education and Training. And we often leave out the training portion, but it is a very, very important part of the work that the department does, particularly when we consider how we are building this country going forward. Now, in recent weeks, towards the end of last year, higher education came into focus. When you switch on the TV and the radio, and a new sort of hashtag came into being, fees must fall, and that started a movement that I suppose changed the landscape somewhat. But a lot of things have been going on behind the scenes with the Department of Higher Education. There was a summit that took place towards the end of last year to discuss this particular arena and come up with some resolutions and ideas on how to plot the course forward for education and training in the country. So to unpack that, to unpack the plight of students, the challenges that they're facing, the plight of the universities and the TFAT colleges and the training institutions, and how we can put all of these things together under a big blueprint. We're now joined by the Minister of Higher Education and Training, the Honourable Blade Nzimande. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us, and welcome. Always a pleasure to have you.
Yes, good morning, Peter, to your viewers and listeners, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody else.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And joining you is the Deputy Minister, the Honourable Mduduzi Manana. Thank you very much for joining us, and always a pleasure to talk to you as well.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning, and good morning to the audience and the viewers at home.
Okay, all right. So let's start big picture and then start breaking it down into the issues. There's things that are in the news, and then many things that don't make the news but are equally important. So perhaps let's start at the beginning. There was a summit towards the end of last year that you had, and you were discussing the big issues. What are the big things that came out of that summit, just perhaps to lay the groundwork for some of the issues that we'll discuss over the next hour or so?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Perhaps in order to understand some of the issues that came out of that summit, one needs to just say what was the intention of the summit. This was a second summit on higher education. We had the first one in April 2010, because we were at that time trying to ground this department as a new department, to bring the stakeholders together, students, academics, workers, as well as other interested or other stakeholders in the system. Firstly, we were trying to identify how far had we gone between the 2010 summit and the one that we had last year. One of the key observations that emerged is that despite the fact that we still have got a long way to go in higher education and training, and there are still many challenges, but we noted that, especially since 1994, there's been quite a lot of progress. There's been a sea change almost in terms of the demographics of students at our universities. Today, at our universities, for instance, we have majority women students and black students. We have also had a change in terms of the demographics, in terms of teaching staff, although we still have huge challenges insofar as the professoriate is concerned. So in many ways, our universities have actually changed. We no longer have your Bantustan or Afrikaner universities and so on, despite the fact that, of course, you know, our universities still bear the scars of their past and where they come from. So one of the things then that we came up there, what was positive is that there was a consensus on a whole range of issues that needs to be discussed. Amongst others, the things that require transformation, of course, is demographics. Like, you still have 83% of our professors being white. So we have to challenge that. But it goes beyond just demographics. We need to look at the issue of institutional cultures. That is what we also identified. Are our institutions friendly to students? Are they friendly to women? Are they friendly to people with disabilities? You know, are they inclusive? So that was one of the issues. An issue, of course, also that was raised by some of the students' movements, like Roads Must Fall and all that. The other issue is the issue of curriculum transformation, which is really a big issue. Our universities producing students who come from this part of the African continent and also a part of Africa, of course, broadly. Of course, there is a huge global realities that we face, but we can't just be training South African students as if they come from London or New York, you know, much as we must train them in such a way that they can operate in any stage. So the issue of curriculum transformation is important, which is, by the way, linked also to academia, because your demographics of academics also tell something. One student was saying to me, well, he's no longer a student now, he's graduated, on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, by the way, I'm very modern. I'm a very modern minister. Was saying to me, I won't mention the university because it's not like I want to embarrass any institution, said, I went through my 4-year degree. Not once was I taught by a black professor. It's in a former white university, which underlines, emphasizes, you know, all this, because it's like, still we must accept a number of our institutions, their culture is still alienating. But we must not only be looking, we're not only looking at transformation in former white universities, also transformation in your former black universities. It is a problem that some of our former black universities are still 100% black students. It's not reflective of South Africa, you know, and all that. So those are some of the issues that we came up, and we agreed that we do need a process. As a department at the moment, I'm happy to say that we are looking at an action plan, so that how do we begin to take up those debates and discussions. But the fact that we are talking about these systemic issues at this level as a department, we must not lose sight of the fact that the most important side for transformation is at institutional level. That's why we need these discussions and debates, because our institutions are not the same. They face their own unique challenges. What we are concerned about as a department is that often these problems arise because there aren't enough platforms in our institutions to engage with these issues. In 1994, we created something which we called institutional forum in each institution. It's very uneven the way they work, because you don't want to be discussing issues of transformation only when there's confrontation, only when there are problems. It must become part of an institutional culture and life, you know, that stakeholders do come together and address a whole range of issues so that we are able to drive the transformation process. So one of the resolutions of the summit is that we must strengthen dialogue at institutional level, because that is where it matters most. So those are some of the issues that, of course, the financial issues. I mustn't appear as if I forget about that big one, you know. You know, the need to expand assistance to poor students. That was actually emphasized. And where do we look for money? What are the roles of different stakeholders? What is the role of government? What is the role and contribution of business? Business, by the way, they are the single biggest beneficiary of the graduates that we produce from universities and colleges. I can see one businessman is looking at me there. You are right to look at me, because we expect also business to make a contribution. So in short, those are some of the issues that we came up with. It was unfortunate. I'm glad we are coming back to this issue, because Wits exploded on the second day of the summit. So then the summit got buried after that. So I'm glad that we are coming back to this, because there is a very strong connection in what has happened, Fees Must Fall movement, and the summit, because the summit had already identified a whole range of issues that have been raised now on how we take them forward.
Okay, so That was the summit, and as you said, the Fees Must Fall campaign started pretty much in the middle of it. And my question is, you talk about dialogues. Have the students been involved, Deputy Minister, in these conversations going along? Because we get a sense often when we do these interviews that things are being decided, but they feel like they're not being part of this decision-making process. Were they there at the summit?
Not definitely, though, Peter. Students are very important stakeholder. Our universities are about students. And there is a greater sense now coming from the side of students that decisions cannot be taken without us being involved, making inputs, submissions. So as we take decisions, as we try and deal with the systemic challenges, they are on board. They are aware what we are doing. It's a matter, of course, of student leaders going back to report to their constituencies on the decisions that we are taking in really trying to deal with all the challenges that we are faced with. So they were there, they participated, and I can say here without any sigh of hesitation that all the resolutions of the summit are our resolutions, together with the students and all other stakeholders.
All right. Okay, just to get a sense of the landscape, Minister, we've got people who started grade 1 yesterday. 12 years' time, they'll matriculate, we'll have a certain percentage that will come through, and then it's a question of what happens next. So at higher education, give us an overview of how many people are going to university, who's going to TVET colleges, what kind of training institutions. Give us a big picture of higher education.
Yeah, I may not have all the figures all at once, but during the course of the discussion, I can ask for some information, especially on difficult issues from the officials. You know, that's a very important issue that we are raising, because our approach now is that when, for instance, we are looking at students who come out of school, our approach is that we must approach, like your class of 2015, for instance, of matriculants. We approach what we need to do from the standpoint of the entire post-school education and training system, not just universities. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood. Universities are very important, but they are not the only important institutions in terms of responding or providing post-school education and training opportunities. Also, they're important from the standpoint of the fact that we still do not have enough black students in terms of representation. The 18 to 24-year-olds cohort, what we call the participation rate. We still need to increase the numbers of black students who go to universities. But the needs of our economy and society are broader than just a university. Let me just give you an idea of a typical workplace anyway, or in many places. If you have one engineer, that engineer is useless unless it's assisted by 4 technicians, possibly with 10 artisans. All right. Similarly, a medical doctor, what can a medical doctor do without nurses, without radiographers, and other professions in order to work together? That's how society is. Now, you'll find normally then that universities in a workplace would possibly provide 20%, and then people who have to come from, say, universities of technology, maybe they are another 30%. And then the rest will have to be people that come from colleges, like, as I say, in the case of artisans. This year, given the approach then that we are taking, we have just over 212,000 spaces for new entrants to university. And we've got 133,000 for space for new entrants in our TVET colleges. Then we've got a whole range of other opportunities, learnerships, internships, which are important to absorb students, to give them some work experience, and apprenticeships in partnership with the SETAs, in partnership with the TVET colleges. From this year, we've just got over 500,000 of those opportunities combined, from which the students can be able to choose where to go to. Of course, that's not enough. It's not enough. Even at universities, you may find that, for instance, like take medicine, the spaces are too few. I think we've got around we take around 2,000 per year, and yet usually the demand is over 5,000. You know, there are other similar challenges also in respect to other fields. So sometimes you will find that certain programs are oversubscribed, but in others, particularly those that require maths and science, some of them sometimes, we are not getting enough numbers to be able to produce the kinds of skills that we actually need. So we want to say, using such a platform, for instance, that if you don't get taken at university, it's not the end of the world. And also, you don't have to start at university when you leave school. You can go to a college, acquire a skill. At some stage, you might then want to go back to university and do that. I was listening to one radio station in a talk show. One elderly, sounded white male said, "I never went to university. I'm retired now as an artisan. I lived a relatively very good life." You know, which was a very nice example. We do need to actually be promoting more of that. That's why, amongst other things, we've tasked our deputy minister to focus on artisan training as one of his focus area in our department. He's a young man, you see. So we also must send him to catch other youngsters, you know, to say it's cool to be an artisan. I know, we don't want to deny the fact that we still have a huge challenge, that the attitude of our parents and our youth towards colleges is still not a very positive one, although we are beginning to turn the corner. For instance, since our department was established in 2009, we have more than doubled the intake at our TVET colleges. And, you know, some of the things are so good. I wish sometimes we could focus on the media on this. You go to Tembisa, there is a campus there that is producing first-class motor mechanics, diesel mechanics, who get employed even before they get offered jobs, even before they finish. That when you finish, we are actually going to go there. I don't think we are showcasing that enough. There are still challenges, but some of our colleges are doing excellent work. I come from a place known as Dambuza Road, you know. I had never seen a mechanic for an aeroplane. Now that I'm a minister, I'm seeing black youngsters who actually fix aeroplanes at OR Tambo. They don't come from universities, they come from colleges. So it's very important then that we get a balance. The challenge that we have is that we have to expand and diversify your post-school education and training sector. Diversify, not just provide for universities, but even colleges. We need to rebuild a whole range of colleges. TVET colleges are very central, and as well as other colleges, nursing colleges, agricultural colleges. That's a sector that we also need to build and strengthen. I hope that does try and answer some of the issues that you are raising, Peter.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to start now sort of getting into the nitty-gritty of a lot of these issues. We've got a broad sense now of the landscape and some of the big ideas that we need to deal with. And when we come back, we'll start getting your questions as well from home. At Morning Live SABC is our Twitter handle. Hashtag TNA BizBrief is the other platform. And don't forget also, we'll be crossing to Wits University just to find out what's happening this week. There were disruptions at the beginning of the week, and we just want to get a sense of what's happening there, because this could be, I guess, a barometer of student angst at the beginning of this academic year. So all of that's still to come, so please start tweeting. Let's get your questions, and after the break, I promise you, Minister's answers are going to be shorter. That's coming up.